Yeah, just happy to get a win this weekend. Again, as I mentioned after the game, I just thought it was a great team effort. Obviously faced a lot of adversity, as I mentioned during the week, a lot of adversity on Saturday. Thought Virginia Tech played really, really well. And again, it was just our drive, our passion, our resilience in the fourth quarter. The defense getting the stops and the offense making the plays when they needed to. They got us the win. Special teams, our specialists were unbelievable. Headley pinning them deep throughout the game. I think averaging nearly 50 yards on net punt. Borgallis making those field goals. So everybody had a hand in it. We still know that's not our best effort. Our best ball is still out there, which is exciting, and our team knows that, which is cool. They want to get better and on to the next one. So with that, open up for questions.
Great, thanks, Coach. We will start with Manny Navarro from The Athletic. Manny, go ahead.
Hey, Coach Diaz. Obviously, we've talked a lot about the COVID and all the other concerns, so I'll try to focus on football here. The offensive line, DJ Scaife, he was so good for you guys last year, and I know he's continued to play well this year, but this last game was kind of rough on him and the offensive line. Just your thoughts on what you saw specifically with that group in this past game. How much of it was on them, maybe how much of it was on De'Eric holding on to the ball sometimes.
I felt like Virginia Tech's defense for pretty much 3 quarters just competed harder than our offense. I just thought in terms of what we want to be, in terms of, our buzzwords are fast and physical on offense. And I really felt like more than any other game this year, we were neither fast nor physical. We kind of got it going there at the end, but we just didn't have our normal bite like we're used to. And yet we still got it out and find a way. So whether, yes, our offensive line, we were disappointed with how they played. But like all those guys, they hung together. They were able to grind out some rushing yards there in the fourth quarter, and obviously make some of the plays when they had to be made.
Thanks.
All right, next we'll go to Barry Jackson from the Herald. Barry, go ahead.
Hi, Manny. Couple of things. Just to clarify on Isaiah Walker, is he not playing because of medical reasons or because the NCAA hasn't approved his attempt to play this year? And then also going to ask you about cornerback numbers. Much improved, obviously, your group with Takori, but you've been fortunate. You haven't had COVID there because you have 5 on scholarship. You have only 1 cornerback commitment for 2021. Do the numbers at cornerback concern you moving forward?
Well, obviously, we're not going to finish the class with 1 cornerback commit, right? So we understand that there's room to add in the recruiting class. You should normally have 7 on the roster, 8 if in an odd year if you get a couple guys coming back. And look, you're always going to have now in the era of opt-outs and transfers, you may have a guy leave like what we had this year. So we were 1 down and then 1 left, which put us in a little bit of a bind, and the guys have had to step up and they have, but that's something we think we can remedy this off season, and then as you mentioned with Isaiah is medically not ready to play yet. Getting better though, and we still think he's got a really bright future here.
Thank you.
Next up, we'll go to Tim Reynolds from the AP. Tim, go ahead.
Hey, Manny, thanks for doing this as always. Obviously, you're a Miami guy, to the core, to the bone, and the Heat went to the finals. The Panthers made the pre-playoffs or whatever we're going to call it. You guys are good. The Dolphins are good. The Marlins made the playoffs and just had a historic hire. How cool is it right now to be part of kind of a sports renaissance in this city?
Yeah, it's been a 2020's had a lot of negativity, but it's been a heck of a year. It's fun watching the Dolphins and what they're up to right now, and obviously everybody got on. Was excited by the Heat, and you mentioned even the Marlins. So it's been great. It's been sad that we haven't had the ability to share it with our fans, throughout the year, which you really would love to have happen. How great would it be to come home this Saturday to a packed Hard Rock night game, visions of November of 2017, with a team that's 6-1 in the league, running out of the smoke. So, but I think there's it's fun to watch, but it's fun for us to do our little part, and if anything else, just hope, what we're trying to do is bring a little joy to everybody in 2020, because there's enough certainly to be, upset about if you want to be.
how have you kept the kids from not feeling shortchanged by that reality, Manny, that there's not going to be 65,000 and it won't be crazy at Hard Rock on Saturday?
Yeah, I think this goes back to what we had to deal with back in April. Thing could have gone either way, right? Just everything going back to the quarantine and whatever. Maybe you see the same trends with the Heat and other teams. Like I think there was just a coming together of these guys when we were apart. Didn't have to go that way. I mean, obviously, I'm sure it's not that way on every team, but for whatever reason, I think some of the adversity we dealt with really brought our guys together when we started to come back in small groups in the summertime, and you started to feel. I've mentioned this before that this team was close. And our leaders really took charge of that. We added a great freshman class, not just of their talent, but their personalities. And I think close teams win in 2020. So the fact that we're playing either for, on the road, no matter how many fans, I mean, our sideline, whether at home with how many fans are there, there's really been it's all about us and we're playing for each other type vibe with our team.
Thank you.
Next, we'll go to Susan Miller-Degnan from the Herald. Susan, go ahead.
Hey, Manny. It's very impressive, your fourth quarter, the way you guys have been playing and how you wear teams down. I know sometimes I would think that could get a little nerve-wracking after a while, but how do you translate that to earlier in the game as well? And I do have a follow.
Well, you have to look at it like this. I mean, it'd be fun to just beat everybody up earlier in the game, right? But that's kind of hard, right? No one blows everybody out every week. That's kind of makes you elite, which we're obviously not there yet. And we recognize that. We're working our way to that. We know that there's a whole nother level that we can get to. But what we have done and what our offense has done and then our defense, along with it, and really the way our program has changed is we're just going to go really fast, and we're going to go fast for 4 quarters. And you will try to keep up. And maybe you will, and maybe you won't. And sooner or later, what happens is the other guy just loses his will. And I thought Virginia Tech played hard for 4 quarters. We just did a better job of executing in the fourth than they did. So I think it's that. I mean, it'd be great to say, well, why don't we just score 20 points in the first quarter? But it's not like Xbox on easy mode. The other guys are trying too, and so. But I think the idea of being relentless and staying after it and not blinking when you face some adversity. I think that's been the cool part, because you get a little bit of backbone about you, and then you recognize that, listen, this tempo, it's death by a bunch of body blows, and when I went back and watched the film, even when we weren't doing things well on offense, there were still some body blows being delivered, some short runs, just snapping the ball. We've had really long drives on offense over the last 3 weeks, like 85-yard drives, multiple 80-yard drives each game. And, those things take their toll and they wear down in defense. And especially when you start playing the backups, it's like a baseball reference. You're trying to get to the bullpen. And so I think that, some of that is a factor in it as well.
That was a great answer. Also, Manny, could you elaborate a little bit on what you saw out of John Ford and Bradley Jennings and Sam Brooks?
John played very well. John has put together 2 really good performances the last 2 weeks. But that last game I thought might have been John's best game. Very active. I think our numbers, because we graded it in-house, I think we had him on 11 tackles, maybe between solos and assists, which is really impressive for an inside guy. So really proud of just the way that he played. I thought Bradley Jennings played very, very well. I thought he played well 2 weeks ago, but I thought he played even better on this game. Just trusting himself, making quicker decisions, getting to the hole quicker. And doing the things obviously he loved to finish the interception and trust me, the guys they're not letting him live it down for that. And then Sam Brooks, it was good to get Sam back in the game. I think Sam, there was a couple of times where he still, again, like we've talked about with the other backers, just go ahead and trust yourself and shoot your shot. Sam has just been dealing with some injury things throughout the year, but he adds something to us when he's in the game. So proud of all the way that those 3 played.
Thanks.
Next, we'll go up to Richmond. David Teal from the Richmond Times-Dispatch. David, go ahead.
Manny, framed by what you experienced last week leading into the Virginia Tech game, are you surprised that as we sit here on November 16th that ACC teams have been able to stage 65 football games and that every team remains on track to a full 11-game regular season?
Well, I think what we've all done is we've all followed the leadership, here, whether it's Dr. Frank here on this campus, the university presidents together, the athletic directors, and following the advice of the medical people. It's certainly not been easy. I can't speak for the other programs. But what we know is we don't have a coronavirus in college football problem. We have a coronavirus in America problem, and everyone can see, or I would hope could see. I just can't say everyone can see because the way things are in 2020, everybody can't agree on anything. But certainly the math is saying that the numbers are really, really getting to a bad place. So our mentality the whole year has been just play the next play, take every day at its time, just trust what the day tells you on that day, make the best decision you can on that day, and then move on from there. And like I said, that's gotten us this far.
Given the way those numbers are trending and given how rigorous COVID protocols are for athletes, coaches, staff, everyone, how does that frame how you are approaching the thought of postseason and extending those rigors for several weeks just to play one more game?
David, I understand the line of questioning, but for me, I remember back in the summer when we were making all these predictions on we won't even get the thing off and running, and not just in college football. It's baseball. Remember the Marlins had an issue early on. No way this will work, and there was a lot of no way this will work in really all the sports. And what I took away from that is don't try to predict the future, right? Because everybody knew for sure what it would be like in September, and it turned out to be something different. They knew for sure what it'd be like in October. It turned out to be something different. So I think it's just very dangerous to try to get the crystal ball and try to predict what December will be like in bowl games and whatever. Really just try to focus in. I know that sounds like a cop-out answer, but it really is true if you think about it with what we faced this year.
Thank you.
Next up, Gary Furman from Kane Sport. Gary, go ahead.
Hey, Manny, how you doing this week?
Good, Gary.
It's the time of year where transactions start taking place in the coaching business, and guys make moves and different names come up. And Rhett Lashley's name is one that's starting to come up more and more. Kirk Herbstreit talked about it on multiple occasions on ABC, and now with the South Carolina job open, his name's been on a list or two there. Have you and Blake taken a look at him at this point, now that it's been proven like what he's bringing to the program, and seen if there's things that you can do to enhance his situation at Miami? So, maybe, staying here for an extended period of time might be a better option for him. And also, is anybody within the program being groomed as a possible offensive coordinator of the future who can continue on the momentum that's been built with this offense this season?
Let me kind of start with the second part first. I think what we have now is we have a system that we want to build on. We want our players to feel comfort and familiarity in our system on offense and defense. So that's certainly part of our plans. In terms of the first part of your question, look, that's a compliment to our program. Anytime we're talking about anywhere. And so that's something that if we're doing our job with excellence, then those rumors should come and go. And I know from being caught up in those rumors myself, and a lot of them, as I know from my experience, were just that. They were just rumors. So we're trying to do everything we can to make everybody really comfortable to be here at the University of Miami. We think we can create a great standard of living here for our coaches. Can't find it other places. And what we know is that we have a chance to be really good if we get the right people doing the right things here at So I think all of those things make this a very attractive place to come to, and a very attractive place to stay as a coach. So.
And just as an extension of your first answer, I probably should have mentioned this in the question, but Rob Likens would be a name that some people might look at and say he's got coordinator experience. He's coaching the receivers, understands the passing game. Might be a guy that maybe in the future, if Rhett did move on to something different, could potentially be that kind of guy. Would that be presumptuous, or?
Look, we love our coaches that we have on our staff, and it's great that we have multiple coaches that have coordinator experience on our staff, but it is so unfair to go down the line of hypothetical thinking. I get, why people on the outside of the building would consider those type of things. And I'm not saying that we don't think through those things here, but we can't share and deal in hypotheticals at this point.
All right. Thank you.
Next up, we've got David Lake from 24/7. David, go ahead.
Yeah, Coach, to build on the fourth quarter, finishing games out in the fourth quarter, it would seem like David Feely and his program plays a big role in that. I was wondering if you could just share, you've worked with him now for nearly 2 years, I guess. What makes him a different strength and conditioning coach? Because I feel like you've been around plenty during your career. Is there anything that makes him different?
Yeah, I think Dave is, obviously he's very good at what he does. I think what makes him unique is he's got a great mixture for, obviously your strength coach has got to have a really tough demeanor. You got to have a tough mentality, and really be able to instill that in the team. But Dave is also got a great feel for the science behind what he's doing. We use all kinds of data with whether through our catapult system or what we're doing in terms of how we're training, high speed, explosive lifting during the season, to make sure that our players are at optimal peak performance on game day. And our players know that, so it's not like just, get in there and, hey, do this and just, you yell and scream at them. They understand the why. And I think what we know is in this age of coaching, if the players can understand the why and the purpose of everything that you're doing in your program, I think they'll buy in a lot more. And I think that's why our players feel very comfortable, with David. And I think that's then therefore translates David to what is occurring in the fourth quarter. And then it kind of, sort of flywheels right down. The better you play in the fourth quarter, the better it sort of reinforces why we do what we do during the week. And then you go from there.
Along similar lines, Jalen Phillips, have you ever been around a defensive lineman that could play 70 plays, 70 plus snaps in a game at such a high level in your career? Have you seen that?
If I have, they're very rare. He plays so hard, and I'll tell you, we saw it in August. I mean, he put together an August camp that is better than maybe any defensive end I've ever been around. Maybe go back to Mario Williams. I don't know. I mean, just, and again, I'm not talking about just production and sacks and things like that, even though that's certainly a part of it. Just his effort and how relentless he was chasing the football. And that was a big deal to us, what we were trying to establish, as our identity defensively this year. I mean, we try to do it every year, but you always start from scratch. And to have a player like Jalen, who, has turned out to be one of our best guys, also be one of the guys that plays the hardest, what a great example for everybody on our football team.
Okay, we've got time for two more. We'll go to David Furones from the Sun Sentinel. David, go ahead.
Hey, Manny, I know you can't give us some magic word that we can hold you to on Monday saying, all right, well, Manny Diaz said it's on, but given how close you guys were this past week, that you said you were on the brink of having to call it, and Georgia Tech actually, their game against Pittsburgh was postponed. The ACC said due to both teams, but reports seem to indicate that it was a little bit more on Pitt. What's your feel right now that this game will indeed be played on Saturday?
We're playing like it is. But, as I said, it's until you get through all the hurdles of all the testing, you just don't know. So, it's so funny, David, you got to take it every day. I mean, every day it just comes, and whatever comes, you deal with it that day. So off to the next day.
And then last we'll go to Tom D'Angelo from the Palm Beach Post. Tom, go ahead.
Hey, Manny, on Saturday, you gave a lot of credit to the players for just saying how badly they wanted to play. And the question is surrounding that. I would think there came a point where you came down to a player or two being away from not playing, considering the position groups. Is that what you meant? Did they have to be, I don't know if you can be extra careful, because I know they're being very, very careful. But was that the type of thing where players looking at it and saying, this game could be on me, and I want to play this game?
Yeah, I would, I can't speak for them, but I would assume that they had that mentality. I mean, what I mentioned was it was a hard week. I mean, as the week went on, we kept losing people, and the players, to their credit, they just come, they work. I mean, they've really been awesome, but they have eyes too, right? And they can see, and they can start to, and then they didn't say this, they didn't talk about this. This is kind of, some things we got for them after the fact yesterday, just talking about their mindset before the game. But, they weren't sure. they weren't sure midweek last week how it was going to go. And I think that's, I think when we got there on Friday and, got through our last round of testing here, and we were on the edge, but we could do it and we could go. I think actually there was a big release of excitement because I think guys were like, oh, wow, like this is happening. Now, did that affect some of our preparation? Did that have something to do with how we played? You can't measure it. Who could know? But these are human beings, right? And that's why I'm sympathetic. Hey, look, Virginia Tech, they may have the same deal. They had the same deal in September. No one talks about what Virginia Tech had to go through on their defense side of the ball in September. They just look at the games and they just look at your win-loss record and fair or unfair. But that's where we've got to in 2020. So I think there was a boost when all of a sudden the guys realized, like, hey, we can go play this. And they really wanted to, even though obviously there were a couple scenarios that could have played out on Saturday that could have made things really interesting from an injury standpoint. But that's why to me, I give them all the credit. They wanted to do it and went up there and then they got it done.
So when you woke up on Friday, you weren't sure you were going to be getting on a plane, or was it before that you when you say you're on a brink, what was the lowest point? Did you not know till actually Friday before you headed to the airport?
When we woke up on Friday, we weren't sure we were going.
Really?
We didn't think we weren't going, but we weren't sure. I mean, it was 50-50 on that, whatever the expression you want to use.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Coach. Thank you, everybody. Just a reminder, at 1:30, we've got Rhett Lashley and Blake Baker, and that is on a separate Zoom link. We'll see you later this week. Thank you.
Thank you all.